Today we're going to start to learn about fractions. We deal with fractions in our everyday lives regularly. I've been doing some cooking with my own children over the last few days, and we have used fractions numerous times. Today we're going to start with doing some paper folding to make some fractions of our own. So it would be very helpful if you have some paper, be it scrap paper. It's fine, I'm using some old paper here so I'm not wasting new paper. That way you can pause the video at times and have a go at the activities that I am doing, and that will make the learning much more engaging than if you're just watching the video. So, first of all, I'm going to fold my paper into halves. Have a go yourself. There's numerous ways that you might be able to fold your paper in half, so have a go at that now. When making fractions, for them to be true fractions, the pieces of paper, or whatever the thing is that we're cutting up into pieces, the pieces need to be exactly the same size. That is what makes them fractions rather than just pieces, I guess. So, I've been very careful here to join the corners. I put the corners together first, and then I smooth my hand out across the paper from the folded edge. I smooth my hands across the paper from the sides that have come together to the middle. Alrighty, so we should now have two equal pieces. And as you know, these would be called halves. So, how can we now make 4 pieces? Have a go. I'm going to fold my halves in half again, joining the corners carefully together, holding those corners down, and then using the palm of my hand to push back to make a nice crease. So I've halved the halves. We had 2 pieces when the paper was like this. There was 1 piece on one side and 1 piece on the other. We've now cut each of those, or folded each of those, into half again. So let's see if we do have 4 pieces. Yes, we do. And it would make a lot of sense if we called these fourths. But they have a special name, don't they? Which is quarters. Sometimes the names that we give fractions do make it a bit more challenging to learn than if we simply called them perhaps 2s instead of halves, 3s instead of thirds, fourths, maybe 5s instead of fifths, and so on. So the language of learning fractions is quite challenging. Okay, if you're doing this activity along with me, fold your piece of paper back and so that you can see 1 piece, one of the small pieces, or a quarter. Now, have a think about what we've done so far. I'd like you to try to make 8 equal pieces from this point. Have a think about what you're going to do, give it a go, see if it works, and press play when you're ready to continue. Okay, I hope you were successful. I have a quarter here, and the challenge is to make 8 equal pieces. I have 4. If I halve what I'm holding now, then that is going to put a crease through all of those 4 pieces. So my 4 pieces would then turn into 8 pieces. Let's see if that works out. I'm going to halve my piece of paper, get those corners together again, pinch them down, then push backwards towards the fold to get a nice even crease. Okay, there we have it. Let's open it up. There was the quarter that we could see before. We can see that that quarter has now been folded into 2 equal pieces. If that has happened for all 4 of those quarters, if all 4 pieces have been turned into 2, then we should have 8 pieces. Let's have a look. There's a half of our piece of paper. In that half a piece of paper, we can see one of the quarters and another of the quarters. Here's the whole piece of paper. 2, 4, 6, 8. We have 8 equal pieces. And these get the special name eighths. You need to stick that tongue between your teeth to say ths, eighths. Right. So, every time, if we go back to the beginning, we had one whole. And when we halved that whole, we doubled the number of pieces. We went from 1 to 2, doubling the number of pieces. When we halved a half, we ended up with 4 pieces. So we went from 2 pieces to 4 pieces, so we doubled again. And when we folded our quarters, we then ended up with 8 pieces. So we went from 4 pieces to 8 pieces. So there's a really interesting relationship here. Whenever we halve fractions, the pieces become half the size that they were, and the number of pieces that we have doubles. We need to use that knowledge with the next few tasks. So, you're going to need a new piece of paper now. Okay, I have a fresh new piece of paper. My challenge to you is, can you find a way to make 3 equal pieces? Give it a go. You might need a few pieces of paper to have a try to see if you can work out a way to make 3 equal pieces, and press play on the video when you're ready to continue. Righto, I wonder how successful you were. Well, we don't write too many letters these days that we actually send in the post. But for older people like me, when I was younger, I certainly sent letters in the post, and we learnt this method of folding paper to fit it inside an envelope. So have a look now as I demonstrate. I'm going to fold one side across. Now what I'm looking to see here is I'm trying to make this side that I'm folding over look to be the same width as this side here. Now, our human eyes are very good at determining whether or not 2 pieces are equal sizes, whether they've been cut in half or not. I'm sure that if you have a brother or sister at home, that if you have a piece of cake and it gets cut in half to share between the 2 of you, that you would be very, very good at deciding whether or not you had received a fair share. So, I think that looks fairly good. As I fold this down, it's going to look a little bit bigger, so I'm just going to adjust slightly as I go here. Alrighty, I'm fairly happy with that. So I'll put in a nice crease now. Does that look like the same width to you? I think this one, once I've pushed it down, has ended up being a little bit wider. We will soon see. Now, if I've done a good job of that, I ought to be able to fold this side over on top of what I've already done without bending over this part here. Now, as you can see, I haven't done this perfectly. It's going to be fairly close. Okay, so I have made 3 pieces. Let's have a look at that. And they're fairly close. these aren't technically thirds. And that comes back again to the definition of fractions. For these to be thirds, they would need to be exactly the same. Okay, I'll stick with this for now. It's fairly close. So my challenge to you now is to, if you haven't got a piece of paper looking like this yet, do that now and then press play when you're ready to continue. Alrighty, you should have a piece of paper that's looking like this. My challenge to you now is to have a think first before you fold. How could you turn these, we'll call them thirds, but we know that they're not actually technically thirds. How could we turn these thirds into 6 equal pieces? Give it a go. See how you go. Okay, I have 3 pieces. We learnt with the last piece of paper that every time we halve the size of each piece, we end up doubling the number of pieces that we have. So, I want to get to a total of 6 equal pieces. I currently have 3. I want to double 3 to get to 6. So, I'm going to give that a try. I'm going to halve all of these 3 pieces at once, putting the corners together. Take your time with your paper folding. Corner together, and fold. Now, of course, if our paper's all folded up, if I fold one of the thirds, it's going to fold all of the thirds in half. So, let's open it up and have a look and see what we have. Okay, we can see 1/3 there, 2/3 and 3/3, which make a whole. And each of those thirds has been folded in half. So now we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And let's just pretend they're equal for now. These 6 pieces, a whole's been divided into 6 equal pieces. Each of those pieces would be called a 1/6. Remember to stick that tongue out between the teeth. A 1/6. So we have 1/6, 2/6, 3/6, 4/6, 5/6, and 6/6, which make a whole. Okay, one more step for this piece of paper. Folding our piece of paper back up again. Hopefully you're starting to develop some understanding of some patterns here. So here we have 1/6. How are you going to turn that into 12 equal pieces? Press pause and give it a go now. Okay, I hope you were successful. I have 6 equal pieces. I want to turn that into 12 equal pieces. I'm going to fold each 1/6 in half. That will double the number of pieces I have. Double 6 is 12. Let's see if it works out. Folding a 1/6 in half. And let's open it up. There's one of the thirds. One of the thirds now has 1, 2, 3, 4 equal pieces. Let's count them. We have 4 equal pieces in this third, 4 equal pieces in this third, and 4 equal pieces in this third. So, that is 4 plus 4 is 8, plus 4 more is 12. Now you'll need a fresh piece of paper. Press play again when you're ready to continue. Right, here's a fresh piece of paper. I'm going to demonstrate to you now how to make fifths. If you'd like to have a go at doing this by yourself first, then go for it. Press play when you're ready. This is quite a tricky one, so here goes. I'm going to fold each side across. And similarly to the last one, I'm going to try to make the space in the middle, this space here, look about the same width, not about, I want to make it exactly the same width as the pieces that I'm folding over on the sides, here and here. Right. Okay, that's looking fairly close. So I'll put the crease in those now, hold down one side. It's a bit tricky. Can be helpful to have some helping hands for this one. Alrighty, here we go. Does that look fairly even? We'll soon find out. Now, I have two pieces, one here, one here. We're going to end up with three pieces on the back. So, I'm going to fold this part over. That's matched up fairly close, but not exactly. And unfold. And this one over. And open that up and see what we have. Remember, we're aiming to have 5 equal pieces. Remember, these are called fifths. Okay, what do you think? How have I done? How even do they look to you? Right. Now, challenge. If that wasn't challenging enough, here's another challenge. How could we make tenths? If you think you know how you might proceed to make tenths, give it a go now. Press play when you're ready to continue. Righto, making tenths. Well, I have 5 equal pieces. I'm going to fold this up now into one column. There we go. There I am showing you 1/5. To make 10 equal pieces, I could double 5. Double 5 is 10. So, I'm going to halve my piece of paper. That will turn this fifth into 2 pieces. It will turn all of those fifths into 2 pieces. Let's see. Corners together again. Fold. There we go. Let's open it up, see what we have. Okay, our fifths have now been turned into tenths. Let's check that. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. 10 equal pieces. Right, you'll need another piece of paper. You could have some lined pad paper, some scrap papers, just something to draw on. We're going to see if we can take what we've just learnt with the paper folding and put that into some drawn diagrams now. So, I'm going to draw a small rectangle. I'm not going to bother with a ruler, we're just doing some estimation today. So I'm going to draw a rectangle and making it look like that's my piece of paper that I was folding before. There we go. So, thinking back to where we began, making halves. Use estimation to make halves. I'm going to place my pencil on the side line of the rectangle and be sure that I'm comfortable with that looking like both sides are half before I draw a line. Now, to make sure I'm a bit more accurate than what I might be if I just went for it, I'm going to do the same on the other side. There we go. Now I'll join those 2 lines. Now, just a reminder, these would not actually be halves because it's estimated, and it's a crucial thing that we remember that fractions are equal. They're not estimated, they are exact. Okay, so there's a half. So, when we were paper folding, the next thing we made was 4 equal pieces. Can you do the same thing with your drawing? I'm going to place a mark on the side and on this side where I think half is, because if I halve halves, I will end up with double the number of pieces, and double 2 pieces will be 4 pieces. There we go. We've drawn a window, haven't we? Okay, how could you turn your 4 pieces into 8 pieces, as equal as we can manage? We need to halve each of them again, don't we? I'm going to go down this way. So, mark halfway between my quarters here, there and there. Join those together and halve the other quarters. There. We now have 2, 4, 6, 8 fairly equal pieces. These would be called eighths. Okay. So the next paper folding we did was with thirds. We learnt how to fold a piece of paper to make thirds, which we would do to put a letter into an envelope. I'm going to draw another rectangle. I'm going to make it look similar size to the last one. Thirds. Now this is going to be a bit tricky. Before we folded the paper sides together, we can't do that with the estimated drawing. Here's what I'm going to do instead. I'm going to use 2 fingers. Pencils would be better. 2 pencils would be better. I've only got one with me now because my fat fingers aren't very good at making an accurate mark on the paper. Alrighty, 2 fingers here. I'm trying to make, with 2 fingers, make 3 equal spaces. So I'm going with the middle of my finger. I think I've separated them equally there and there. Okay, have I divided this side length into 3 equal parts? They're fairly close. They're not perfect, are they? But they're fairly close. So I'll do the same on the other side. There and there. Ooh, I see that this middle section is too wide, so I'm just going to adjust a little bit first. Okay. There we have thirds. Not real thirds, but we're calling them thirds today. Alrighty. Now, after we made thirds, with paper folding, I challenged you to see if you could make 6 equal parts. Now, we have been working with grids. I've been doing some lines this way, and then I've been halving by going across this way. This time, I'm going to halve differently. Instead of doing a line through the middle, which we could do, I'm going to halve each of my thirds vertically. So, halving each third, just putting my marks first of all, and I'm going to draw down this way. Halve that third. Now, let's count, make sure we got that right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We now have 6 equal pieces, or sixths. Fairly equal pieces. Alrighty, could we turn that into twelfths? If you're drawing along at home, give it a go now. There's one of 2 ways you could do that. Okay, I could halve across this way to make twelfths. It would halve the size of every piece, which would double the number of pieces, or I could do it this way. Seeing as my pieces are getting narrow, I'm going to come across the middle this time. There we go. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12 equal pieces, or twelfths. One more rectangle. Remember, the rectangle is representing a piece of paper. The last paper folding exercise we did was to make fifths. That's going to be even trickier when drawing. One way to do this is to first of all find where we think a quarter would be. A quarter is the fancy name for a fourth, or 1 out of 4 pieces. So I'm going to mark halfway and then half of a half. So this here would be 1/4. So the strategy I'm going to use is that if I divided this into 5 pieces along here instead of 4, those pieces would need to be a little bit smaller again. So I'm going to have a bit of a guess and check strategy here. I'm going to make it a bit smaller here. Draw 1. And now I'm going to try to fit in 4 more the same size as that across the rest of the paper. Let's see how it goes. See how close we get. Might need to use some erasing and trying again here. 2, 3, 4 and 5. That actually worked out quite well. I'm happy with that. Right, we now have 5 equal pieces. These are called fifths. Trying not to spit on the cameras, I say fifths. I now would like you to try to make tenths. However, we're not going to make a grid view. We are going to go make vertical lines. Have a go at turning your fifths into tenths. Okay, I hope you did well. I have 5 equal pieces. I know that if I halve each of the 5 pieces, I'll end up with double the number of pieces, and that would be 10. So that's the strategy I'm going to use. I'm going to put my little marks first of all. I have some marks from earlier, so I'm just being clear that the new marks I'm making are a little bit bigger, so I know which ones to use. I've turned that fifth into 2 equal pieces. 4, 6, 8, 10. Let's double check. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I have 10 tenths. Okay, I'm now going to draw that as a number line. Put a little dash here, a little dash here. I'm going to join those through the middle. To turn this into a number line showing fractions, I'm going to come down from the lines that I've created and put a little mark. Following with my pencil down and a mark. And now I have a number line that I have divided into tenths. Now that we've drawn a number line, we're going to go back through our drawings, shade in a few of the parts, and demonstrate how we would write these numerically, we would say. Okay, back to the first diagram. We had 2, 4, 6, 8 equal parts, or eighths. First of all, I'm going to write eighths, so I'm going to try and do my upside down writing here. Hopefully I get it right, but it's okay to make mistakes too. I hope that that's a H. Ooh, S's backwards are really tricky. Ooh, let's hope that I've got that right. Eighths. Okay, I'm going to shade in 2 of those eighths. 1, 2. You might also see that once I've shaded in 2 eighths, I could say that I've also shaded in 1 of the quarters. 1 piece out of 1, 2, 3, 4 pieces has been shaded in. I'm going to record this using notation. So 2 eighths. We have a line that we draw. Underneath that line, I'm going to write the number of pieces that make up the whole piece of paper, remembering that this rectangle is representing a piece of paper. So to have the whole, I would need 8 pieces. And in my drawing, I am showing that I have, or perhaps I've eaten, 2 pieces out of 8. So I'm representing these 2 pieces here. So I have 2 pieces out of 8. 2 eighths. Okay, in this diagram, we had 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12 pieces. So, these are twelfths. So to begin writing the fraction, we would put 12 underneath this line, showing that the whole is made up of 12 equal parts. I'm going to shade in 4 of them. So perhaps there are only 4 pieces of chocolate left after we started with 12, which made up the whole chocolate bar. And so I have 4 pieces out of 12 left, or 4 twelfths. Finally, we made tenths. So, tenths. To have the whole piece of paper, you would need all 10 tenths. So there are 10 pieces making up the whole, and that goes on the bottom. I'm going to shade in 3 of them. So now I have 3 tenths remaining. I hope that that's a 3. 3 is a tricky upside down as well. Okay, 3 tenths. Now, in grade 4, we also learn about decimals. So, in our place value system, we have ones, tens, hundreds. I'm going to write a number there. So 342. Is that a 2? I'm not sure. I hope so. 342. But of course it doesn't stop there. We could go up here into thousands and so on. But I'll leave it at hundreds for now. We then have a decimal point. What the decimal point does is it separates whole numbers from parts of wholes. We have been making parts of wholes today with fractions. This next place value here is tenths, which is the diagram that we've been working on last. So, in my diagram, I have 3 of the 10 pieces shaded in, or 3 tenths. So if I was going to write 3 tenths, which I've written here as a fraction, if I was to write 3 tenths as a decimal number, I would place a 3 into the tenths column, like that. Let's try a few others. If we had 4 tenths, remember there are 10 pieces in the whole piece of paper. I've shaded in 4. We're representing that we have 4 out of 10 parts, or 4 tenths. To write that as a decimal number, we would need to put 4 into the tenths column. So, I have 0 ones, put a decimal, and put a 4 into the tenths column. Okay, one last one for today. If I had 6 tenths, we could write that as 6 parts out of 10. And to write that as a decimal number, we would need to place a 6 into the tenths column. There's my decimal point. Over here would be whole numbers. We don't have any wholes here. we've only got these 6 parts out of 10. So we have 0 whole numbers, and then we have 6 tenths. To read these, we would say this. If we saw this, we would read it as 6 tenths, and this would be read exactly the same, 6 tenths. Okay, I hope that this video has helped with your understanding of fractions and also decimals, and to start to see the link between tenths as fractions and writing those as decimals.